Here's the A to Z process that I use for project management. It is absolutely essential for civil infrastructure projects, whether large, small, design, permitting, or construction. This is what you must use to accomplish successful delivery. I have personally used this for projects that are worth over $200 million in construction that have multiple aspects and multiple projects within it, including pipelines, pump station projects, new installations, rehabilitation, repairs, coordination with multiple stakeholders, and all was made much more simpler because I was able to implement the following 16 steps. Step number 1 is to read and fully understand the scope of work proposal for the project that you are about to begin. It is extremely important that you have no misunderstandings on this document and that you clearly understand every single activity within the scope of work, which are the related deliverables, by when you are delivering this project, and it's very important that you know what is the problem that you're solving by delivering this project. You need to be able to know so that you can see what is the problem that you're solving and you can see it done, because this will need to be articulated to the team members, the stakeholders, and all the people that you're going to be dealing with in the following steps. It's also extremely important that all of your team members, whether it's an administrator on the project, or is a scheduler, an engineer, a designer, a construction inspector, that they all have read and they understand as well the scope of work proposal for this project. Step number 2, develop a work plan for this project. How are you going to execute the project? Who's going to be working on the project? What is their roles on that project, which by the way is very different, or it can be very different to whatever role they have in your organization. Then what software or licenses or equipment or tools are you going to need to deliver this project? What is the sequencing of the steps? Where are you going to start? How are you going to be reporting on this project? How are the communications on this project? Who's going to be the main point of contact for the client on this project? All of this should be delineated in the work plan, and this is something that you should do before you start, because this is how you would accomplish the problem solving of the project that you're dealing with. Step number 3, create a project schedule. It's very important that you make this project schedule visible to all the team, right? So it's not enough by saying that this project's gotta be done by March 15, but you have to be able to visually show that the project is due by March 15, and when are all the other important activities supposed to be completed by, and all the other milestones and all the other deliverables, the submittals, all of that should be in a schedule that is visible to every single team member, because every team member will know that they're part of each of those tasks and activities, and that you are watching and you're tracking that schedule, and they should be held accountable for the activities that they're responsible for. But you can only do that when you have a project schedule that you update and that the project schedule is visible to all the team members. Only then you can actually hold them accountable for whatever they miss or whatever they don't do, or you can use that schedule to actually pressure or engage your team in working faster, working smarter, being creative in delivering what they're supposed to deliver by the schedule. Step number 4. Here you schedule an internal kickoff meeting. This is with your team to clarify the roles, clarify the responsibilities. Everyone has agreement with the work plan and what are the activities that are going to be taking place in the next few weeks or over the next few months. You understand what are some of their needs. You will clarify any doubts that they have, any questions that they may have. They will communicate to you what are some of the things that they need, right? They will say, well, for me to be able to deliver this task, I'm gonna need this type of data, and this data will come from the operations department of our client. So these should be included in our data requests so that I can get moving and I can get my task done. But this is very important because what you're doing in this meeting, in this internal kickoff meeting, is clarifying their questions, clarifying roles, and then understanding what are some of the things that they need to perform at your expectations. Step number 5, have a project kickoff meeting with the client. This is your official kickoff meeting that happens, and then you start the project upon having this meeting. Preferably, this meeting should be at the site of the project location. If you're gonna be rehabilitating a road, or if you're gonna be installing a new pipeline, then you better go to the project location. That's ideal. And then have a kickoff meeting with your client and with your key team members that are gonna be playing role in this project, and talk about scope. What is the role of your team members? What is the schedule? When are we starting? When are we submitting this information? What data do we need from the client? What are we gonna need from the client throughout the project? What kind of collaboration do we need? Who are the stakeholders that are involved in this project? Clarify the scope of work. Restate what are some of the main activities? What are gonna be some of the deliverables? And very important, talk about the problem that you're solving and articulate the solution to the client and get agreement before starting. This needs to be agreed upon between you and the client so that you can proceed and you can deliver this project. Also, very important in this meeting, you want to make sure that you designate a point of contact so that your client knows that he's going to be dealing with that specific point of contact that you designated, because he shouldn't be dealing with 10 different people. He should be dealing with one person. And then if you want your client to communicate with anyone from your team, then you will make that connection, but it should be only one point of contact. Step number 6, use a project management platform to execute the work on this project. I use Asana for project management tools, and it's something that provides visibility for all the team members that are working. You can assign particular tasks by a certain due date, and then make sure that your team is committed also to using that platform. They log into that platform every day. They see what their assigned tasks are, by when those tasks are due, and you can also ask them to report on those tasks as they are making progress. But it's very important that you get your team committed to using the platform, and also getting the team committed to updating the platform and then putting the required notes that you need. Step number 7, set regular project meetings. These meetings are internal. This is for your team to meet, sit down, talk about issues, successes, mistakes, errors, coordination that needs to happen, progress on the work done, time to complete certain deliverables, services, products that need to be submitted to your client. And these meetings ideally should be done on a weekly basis, but it's going to depend largely on the complexity of your project. If you're dealing with an extremely complex project that needs to be completed in 3 weeks, then weekly is not enough. You will probably have to have daily meetings, or every 2 days you should meet with your team. In some of the projects that may not be as complex, then those may require one meeting every 2 weeks, because the level of effort that you're putting into this project because of the requirements may be something that you'll be done with it in 6 months, but the project just requires you to work a couple hours every week, so then you may meet bi-weekly, but ideally you should meet at least weekly for the majority of your projects, because if something happens in week number 1 and you don't meet until week number 3, it may be already too late by the time you get to the issue at hand. And if you have a team member that is stuck into trying to figure out an activity and he doesn't have the space to talk with other project team members, then you may delay that task by 2 weeks until you get the opportunity to meet with the team. So make sure you commit to have a regularly scheduled project meetings at least weekly, and then talk about issues, progress on the projects, time to complete certain activities, and how you're completing those activities. Step number 8, provide regular updates to your client. Ideally, will be at least on a weekly basis. Like at the end of the week, you send an email, you send a communication, and it includes what was the progress done, are we on schedule, are we ahead of schedule, do we need 2 days to recover and get back on schedule because of X, Y, and Z unanticipated activity that happened, or there was a big rain event that stopped construction for 2 days, and now we are working on making up for those 2 days by having additional crews on site that will provide support so that we can get back on schedule. All of those things need to be included in the report that you provide to your client. And depending on the complexity of the job, you may add regularly scheduled meetings as an update to your client. So these can be weekly calls or weekly Zoom calls that you have with your client in the calendar where you meet and then you provide these updates. But it's very important that you document this as well in writing so that there is a track record of what happened in that project. Because if it's a complex job that it's gonna last 18 months, then by the time you're in month 17th, you're not gonna remember what exactly happened during one of the weeks of the 3rd month. It's already too late. So make sure that this is all documented. And nowadays, there are so many ways to use for documenting the meetings. So when I say document your meetings, don't think that you have to add like 2 or 3 hours of someone developing meeting minutes for the meeting that you just had. No, nowadays there is AI. I use Fireflies, and there is a bunch of those where you can invite them to your meeting, the virtual meeting, and it will do very comprehensive notes of the summaries, the action, who spoke, what was decided. All of that is put together by AI. That documentation, yes, have someone that attended the meeting review to make sure that nothing was missed or everything that's in there makes sense, and then use that as your documentation of the progress. Move on to your next task. Step number 9, implement quality checks, and do these for products or deliverables that you're submitting. Do it for all of them. It's very important that quality is one of your main priorities, because your reputation and your project will depend on the quality of your services and your deliverables. And also do quality checks in the progress of the work. If you have one of your engineers working on a complex design and he's working on a set of drawings, and those set of drawings is going to take your engineer 2.5 months to develop a product that is going to be a set for submittal for review, don't wait those 2.5 months to have your quality specialist or your quality assigned engineer go check that. But as he's progressing within the first few weeks, then have a quality progress check where you have someone with the technical expertise come in, look at the drawings, look at the progress, ask some questions that can test the knowledge and the understanding of your engineer that's embedded right there working in those design drawings, and then make some adjustments if adjustments are necessary and continue to move on. But don't wait until the very end to then go in there and change something that can result in an additional 2.5 months for your engineer to fix that. Now you're probably late. in your schedule. Step number 10, submit and present the deliverables via a meeting. Don't just send your documents, your products, your deliverables, and assume that your client will understand those documents as well as you do. Just because they were so greatly developed and they're so comprehensive that they got to understand those documents. Like, always assume that your client will need you to walk them through the documents that you're presenting. Why? Because chances are you probably spend way more time than what your client is going to spend reviewing what you produce. So you made a lot of assumptions and conclusions and analysis and evaluations along the way that are yours. And some may be documented, but all of them are not there. And it took you hours to be able to develop that document or that product or that report. So what you got to do is, once you submit that, then you have a meeting, you present concisely. I'm not saying take hours to present your deliverable unless it's something extremely complex that will require 2 or 3 hours to present. But chances are you're submitting a report, then just take some minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, present all the work that you did for your client, and then ask questions to test their understanding, to make sure that you are being duplicated, that what you're conveying is arriving at the other side, right? So you're presenting this document to the client, you're asking questions, make sure you got agreement, make sure there is understanding, make sure this meets whatever they were looking for, and then once that's done, then consider it done. Document that meeting. Again, as I talked in the previous step, use AI technology. Be very efficient. Don't waste time having someone do meeting minutes. Just document this meeting, do AI, submit your deliverable, clarify any questions, make sure he's satisfied with the product, and move on to the next step. Step number 11, document successful actions and do not wait until the end. Like, do not wait until the project's over to go back and think, okay, so when I started this project like 10 months ago, what was that thing that I did that was successful? And then you try to like refresh your memory and read some things, and then you put some things together based on what was successful at the time. That was probably 10% of what you would have done if you were doing it at the time when that happens. Because already a lot of things happen in the way and you probably forgot some of that information. And this is absolutely gold. Like, a successful action can really improve your project by like 10 times now that you have it well documented. So as soon as something happens that is very successful, that you're very excited, it's like, oh my God, I was able to like do this coordination between like these 3 agencies, and we got together, and in these meetings we talk about these issues, and we agreed to collaborate and work together, and we dropped down their review time from like 3 months down to like 2.5 weeks because I got their commitment, and I was able to get this division and this other division and that other division in the call. And it was great because they had an understanding of the urgency of this project, because it was grant related money and we had some hard deadlines, and it was such an important project for the community. So all of those things, like, you're remembering in that moment. But as time goes by, a lot of these details, just like the ones I share, will be dropping because you will forget, or they're not important to you anymore, or your opinion changed based on whatever happened to you in life during those 10 months. So make sure that as soon as that happens, that you were able to shave almost 3 months out of a project schedule, then document that immediately, because chances are you will also have that same problem or challenge in the future. And if you documented that well, that can represent tens of thousands of dollars to you. Step number 12, document errors and mistakes. Again, as soon as they happen. Document those errors, mistakes, obstacles, and how you were able to solve them and overcome them. Like, what exactly did you do? And this is the exact same thing. The faster you do it and the closer you do it to the moment that happens, the more you're gonna be able to remember. And here's the thing with this one. Like, if you don't document what was the error, what was the mistake, what was the challenge, and how you were able to solve that, then the chances of that repeating itself and happening again in another project are very, very large. Why? Because there was an error and then you had a small team that got together and they worked very efficiently and they were able to fix it, and probably your other team that is working on some other project that may have some similarities, they never get to learn about that mistake that happened, and probably they face the same problem in the future, but they may not be able to solve it as efficiently, and then that costs you an additional 15 grand that you had not budgeted, but it was a problem, so it needed to be solved, and somebody made a decision that needed to be solved, but you didn't document how you were able to solve that problem in your other project that happened 2 years earlier. It's extremely important that you document these things. Like, if there was an error, yes, solve it. Jump on it immediately. Don't wait. Like, don't waste time. Just jump on it, solve it, get it done. But document it before moving on, because this is gold. And trust me, it's gonna represent tens of thousands of dollars in your projects along the way. Step number 13, submit deliverables, products, services ahead of schedule. This is extremely important, that you really make an intentional effort, and this is planned, like it's by design, to submit ahead of schedule. It shows your client that you value the relationship. It shows that your team is on their toes. It shows that you're not going anywhere, that you're really there to create value, to produce, and you're thinking in a long-term relationship. Why? Because chances are you may not get paid additional money, or you may not get extra compensated because you were able to submit a few days or a few weeks ahead of schedule. But it shows that you care enough, that you put thought into it, and you really put your team to work creatively and efficiently to deliver that project faster, more efficiently, to create more value, because you understand the urgency of the projects that you're dealing with, which is civil infrastructure that directly impacts the community, the residents, the people visiting for that area. So make an effort to really deliver these projects ahead of schedule. It will also get your team excited. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm doing this faster. I'm doing this better. I'm creating additional value. It's just gonna better position yourself, the project, the organization that you represent, and it's gonna better position your client too against the ultimate customers, which are the residents of the community that they serve. Step number 14, identify new problems. Chances are, and this is guaranteed, chances are that as you're working in your project, you are gonna encounter other problems that your client may have in other areas. Don't just hide this problem and focus on your problem and keep going in this lane only. Like, this is an opportunity for a massive value add. Like, if you come across these problems, make sure that you document those problems immediately, very, very fast, and communicate that to your leadership so that you as an organization can present a solution to your client immediately. Like, you don't have to wait until your project is done or when your project is about to be done so that you can have the next project to continue working with your team and keeping the same team busy with another project. Like, this is just all confusing, and then you're entering in there your own like self-interest of fixing the next problem. No. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you go in there, you spotted a new problem, then you communicated that to your leadership and you presented a solution immediately to that new problem. And then you may have the opportunity to work with your organization or your team or some other team in fixing this new problem. But this is a tremendous value add because this is a problem that you encounter as you were becoming more familiar with your client and you saw some other opportunities for improvement so that they can continue to add value to the residents and their community. And you presented to them immediately with a solution. You didn't just come and say, hey, you know what, this is a problem that you have, you go figure it out. No, but I took the time to identify that new problem, and here is a new solution or a solution that I can present you to that problem. Let's go, let's do it. It changes the approach very much than something that you're planning to do it at the right time so that you can benefit yourself and get it with the same team. Just all confusing. Present it immediately. Step number 15. Close out the project. Make sure you do this in a meeting with your client. You follow up with something in writing, documenting that the work was completed. And again, you can use AI for this. Don't get inefficient and have someone spend hours doing minutes. Just make it very simple. And also make sure that you go over the scope of work proposal, all the activities, all of the deliverables, and that there is agreement that that scope of work has been completed. All the deliverables, the products, the services have been provided, and that, very important, that the problem that you were set to solve when you got hired by your client is solved. The problem is gone. You were able to deliver the solution that the client was looking for, and now this project is closed. But to close it, you need to close it. And what I mean is that you need to solve the problem and you need to provide all the things that you were supposed to provide. And this shall be documented and this shall be done in a meeting. It shouldn't be done in an email, hoping that it got to where you wanted this email to get, and therefore it is done because they replied, received, thank you. No, like you want to make sure you do this professionally and that you document the completion of this project, especially if we're looking at a complex project, multi-month, like something that lasts for 18 months and you have multiple team members producing multiple deliverables and providing services to your client. Step 16, your last step. Develop a case study of your project. Document exactly what were the challenges, what was the problem that you were solving, what was the current condition, what were some of the issues that you faced and the obstacles that you had to overcome. How did you overcome those obstacles? Like document all. What was the end product? Articulate the problem that your client had at the beginning and how you were able to solve that problem at the end. This is a valuable document, not only for yourself, but also for your client to show to the residents and to the community and to other agencies out there that may be having the same problem, that this is how you were able to accomplish solving that problem. And now that problem is gone. And this is the proof that it's gone. Here are the pictures of how the road looks now after it was fixed and it had a bunch of flooding, but you were able to handle that with your methodologies, your coordination, your delivery, and your quality. So that is very, very valuable, and it will also help you to get your next project of comparable magnitude if you develop a very comprehensive case study that you can share with industry, you can share with other prospective clients, and you can share with your clients so that they can use to present to the residents, their city council, or their city commission. I just walk you through 16 steps that are the A to Z of how to deliver project management services in engineering. And one of the things that I mentioned was project meetings, which are absolutely critical to get your project moving forward. And every single project must have project meetings. I mentioned it in step number 7 that you want your team to have a space where they can collaborate and share ideas and issues they're having. I'm going to put a link to a video right here which shows you how to run effective project meetings, and it's a killer to get your projects moving forward. Go watch it now.